Love is the key. Go and give them that. Give them that message from me.
Them a wonder how blessed radio do this. I see them come with tongue. Future prophet tell them we locks get longer. He dead not it on it. Brass radio, you don't know. Pop the good music. Pray them.
Best FM no cigarette smoking in my room. Yeah, I still want Marley. Bless FM radio, play good tune.
يا نيل الله Ojai, 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 everyone. Welcome to the Wisdom of the Nile show. And I'm here representing the Herf Center, and it's a multifaceted, not-for-profit organization promoting and preserving chem culture. I'll just give you a brief overview of our founder, Prophet Neb Naba Lumusa Moran Denibig, who was a Dogon high priest from the village of Burkina Faso, belonging to the lineage of healers tracing their history to the Nile Valley civilization. Now, Prophet Naba in 1995 embarked on an unprecedented journey across the globe after receiving the blessing and support of the Gulmi royalties, the dignitaries of the traditional temples, and the grand divinities of Kemet. Now, Neb Naba's mission was to bring the knowledge of the existing Kemetic temple to the general public for the benefit of all humanity. And Neb Naba opened the first school, the first Earth Center school, in 1995 in Chicago, Illinois, where he began to take people through the initiatic process. The Herf Center began to grow as the demand for authentic spirituality knowledge increased. And currently, there are 9 Herf Centers throughout the world. And we have 6 in the USA, 2 in the UK, and currently 1 in Canada. And continually growing. The Herf Center consists of 4 different branches. And the first branch really is the MTAM School of Kemetic Philosophy and Spirituality, where we teach 3 different topics. The first is the Medu Mahit, humanity's original language. That's covering the second is Katibi, which covers spirituality, meditation, yoga, and the third is Sunt, is traditional healing, traditional techniques that our ancestors used to use for assessing and diagnosing the body. And the fourth is the second is the Firefly, and that is our publishing the publishing company that publish all the Firefly magazines, the Sunnyside magazines, and basically all the literature and things from the Earth Center. And the idea is to disseminate the traditional Kemetic knowledge all over the world as we grow as a Kemetic school. The third is the Ancaster healing, natural healing, provided by the priests, healers who are devoted to preserving traditional medicinal and spiritual knowledge. That side of it, they offer herbs that helps to supplement the healing of the body. So that side of it really is, we can speak about that more later on as to where herbs and things are available. And the fourth side of it is the project in Merita, and that project is ensuring the solution to Africa's problems. That's basically applying ourselves, installing clean water wells, farming projects, using traditional farming techniques, and basically this is to try to preserve the way that our ancestors used to do organic, what they would call organic farming today, and in the traditional way. And so that is done by not overusing the land, and it's the traditional way of how we used to do things, really. So we see the benefit of it, when we see our ancestors back in Merita and how long they're living, or they can live by eating a healthy diet. So it's important really that we we go back to the old traditional way and preserve that knowledge, because as modern technology and science is advancing, we're getting more genetic modified food, really, which is basically damaging us, really. And the effect of that, as we can see out there in society, the amount of problems, medical problems and things that we're suffering because of the consequence of GM crops, which is non-human friendly, if you want to put it that way. So it's important, really, like that, these projects. You know, it's also about preserving temples and things like that. So it's basically rekindling back what was broken down and to re-establish ourselves, really, right, as a Kemetic. Yeah, as a Kemetic society. Prophet Neb Naba, Lamusa Morandenibig, is also known throughout the world as an authority on Kemetic culture and spirituality. And he leaves us with books such as the Philosophy Podium, Initiatic Tales, the Hejpata, the Rising Firefly magazines, Sidereal Calendar, that's the Kemetic calendar, the Book of Purification, and we have a range of videos and lectures which he left with us before his transition. So we have like video lectures on DVDs, and we have audio lectures on CDs. We also have the Divine Audience, which is the 77th commandment. That's what we follow as Kem. And the Mandela of Dendera, which is the map of the skies. And all of these basically could be reached could be purchased like at the Health Center. And we'll just give you the address roughly, kind of say where you can get these stuff from. And the first number we have is 0207 175 4144, and our email address is amtamuk@thehealthcenter.com, and Facebook, it's the Health Center UK, and the Twitter feed is Kebta UK, and we've also got Instagram at the Earth Center of UK, and the website is www.theearthcenter.org, and our address, if you want to kind of say come to the school, which is in Leytonstone, is 21 Sunnyside Road, Leyton, London, E10 7BB, and that's where and that's where you can come and on a Sunday, between say 10:30 and say 5 o'clock, and DVDs and all the other products that we spoke about really could be purchased there really on a Sunday between 10:30 and 5 o'clock really on a Sunday. We'd just like to play you a slight interlude of music. Jai, everyone again. We're back to the second section really of the program, and just before then I'd like to read you the proverb of the week, and this proverb is: the sun never sets, it's man that moves away from the light. And so it's for something, just a food for thought for you to kind of think about that one day, what it actually means. And into this next section here, I wanted to introduce my fellow brother, One Love, who is going to give you a brief account really of Kemetic time division. And I would just like to bring him in now so that he will explain to you a little bit more about the Kemetic time division.
Well, Ujai, to all the listeners, it's One Love back again. Just wanted to say a big welcome to all and everybody out there. As mentioned by my fellow initiate, we're dealing with a very important area of knowledge for humanity worldwide, and that is to do with how we perceive time and space, and bring you back to the origins of Kemetic time and space. And for the first time, I've got to share with you something that was told to me by the people who are responsible for a calendar called the sidereal calendar. And I urge you just to take your time to write down some of the information that I'm going to share with you. And the sidereal calendar is the calendar that represents the Kemetic understanding or knowledge about how time has been, how could I put it, divided or arranged in a way that's in keeping with nature. And what I'm going to share with you is information that comes not from, is typically the books or the words written about time from a people that we have lost our connection with, but this is straight from the heart and straight from the source. And if you take the time to kind of like do your own due diligence, you'll find out that this information is information that turns what you currently know or understand upside down on its head. So much of what I'm going to share with you is taken from The Rising Firefly, which is, you've heard, is a publication which comes out of the Kemetic School, the Earth Center, and the volume that I'm going to be reading from is volume 73. And just to give you a little bit of the insight into what volume 73 covers, the cover shares a few topics called. One's called Understanding the Dialogue of Energies, which is the composition of human energies. Another section deals with World Renewal Day, the origins of the leap year, and that's where we find the information that I'm going to be referring to. But it's got quite a bit of what we call relevant information in there. Another aspect deals with police shootings, the importance of the name, part 2. It talks about MTAM, graduation, and MTAM is spelled NMTAM for those people that are eager to find out more. And a final heading is called Tips for Mums on Spiritual Routines. Now that is not something that you'll come across in any of the information that's put out there by, let's say, the Western world. So please do, I urge you, take steps to get your hands on editions of the Rising Firefly, and you'll be given the contact address and names and numbers so that you can get this information for yourself. But let me move swiftly on and share with you some of what it contains when it starts to talk about something like the origins of the leap year. And I'm quoting directly from the publication. It says, Europeans traced the origin of the leap year back to the introduction of the Julian calendar. Julius Caesar introduced the Julian calendar in 46 BC. 46 BC, remember that. 2 years after he had invaded the Nile Valley, Egypt. It was in Kemet that Julius Caesar consulted with the scholar and astronomer Sosigenes to reform the old Roman Republican calendar, which was plagued with inconsistencies and out of sync with the seasons. The Roman Republican calendar consisted of 10 months and a total of 304 days, since the winter was not counted. Did you hear that? The Roman calendar, 10 months, 304 days. So in case you thought that they had got it right from the beginning, and that what you've adopted or what you now pass your lives and the lives of your ancestors and your descendants with is steeped in what should I call it, accuracy, it's not. It says, instead of reforming the Roman Republican calendar, Sosigenes reintroduced with some modifications the ancient Egyptian solar calendar of 365 days. Okay. Now moving on. Please take note that the invasion of Kemet by the Romans was a very significant part of world history. At that time, the Romans were thought to be the world's most powerful military nation, and they themselves thought that nobody could rule the world in the same way that they had invaded countries one by each, until they came across Kemet. And on entering Kemet, what they saw was a civilization that had already spread throughout much of the inhabited earth. And there's evidence of that already. But on going into Kemet, they saw a civilization that was so advanced that in reporting back to the emperors in Rome, what came back to the emperors was astounding. Astounding enough for instructions to be given to decimate and destroy what it was that they'd come across, but to take away and plunder and rob and keep what they thought was of value, and what it was that they could take and use to advance their own agenda. And part of what they took back is evidence in architecture, it's evidence in science, it's evidenced in the manipulation of religions throughout the world. And so, in addition to taking, what they decided to do was to destroy much of what it was that was left. And one of the things that they encountered was this strong spirituality that existed, and the fact that people in Kemetic civilization followed certain patterns, they followed certain routines, and these routines were set based on what nature provided. And nature, throughout the Kemetic culture, was based on what they saw in astronomy, and what they saw in the skies, and what they witnessed on earth in the flow of the Nile River. I'll come to say more about that later, but this subject is not by any means a short subject. It's got quite a lot of depth to it. But in what I'm trying to explain, you'll come to know that the destruction of that spiritual knowledge and the destruction of that civilization was of paramount importance. And in doing so, what was adopted as in Kemetic culture as being a 10-day week was changed by the presence of the Roman Empire into a 5-day week. But much to their annoyance, all that meant is that by manipulating that 5-day week and adjusting it to a 10-day week, it was a pretty simple operation. And so the routine and practices and that happened spiritually still occurred. And then the idea was to change it completely to a 7-day week, so that it could interrupt that basic 10-day pattern that had been adopted. And in doing so, that 10-day week has become what is known around the world as the conventional week from Monday to Sunday. And it's the days that I and my parents and probably our forefathers have been going by until now, when this wisdom has now become evident. And I'm going to share with you how it's come about now. And when people were reluctant to adopt what it was that the Roman Empire had was instilled on them, then you'll come to find out that people lost their lives, people died, if they didn't follow what it was that had been forced on them, because the devastation or the ending of that civilization was seen as being a casual, loss to the powers that be. But fortunately, what is now known is that civilization continues, and the people from that era, the descendants of that era, exist now to bring that knowledge back to us. So this knowledge comes at the cost of the lives of those people, and it should be remembered that it came at a significant price. But moving on, I'm going to quote you more from volume number 73. It states, "It's important to know that the Julian calendar is a modification of the Egyptian solar calendar, called the Kemetic sidereal calendar. Sidereal is spelt S-I-D-E-R-E-A-L. To repeat, S-I-D-E-R-E-A-L. It says, since the Gregorian calendar, the one we presently use, is essentially the same as the Julian calendar, except for some minor modifications, we would probably still be using the Julian calendar if it wasn't for the fact that the Roman Catholic Church noticed that their Easter celebrations were drifting away from the spring equinox." Now check this out. It was at the Council of Nicaea in 325 CE that the rules for the celebration of Easter were laid out. Easter Sunday was to be the first Sunday following the 14 days after the spring equinox. The problem was rooted in the fact that in 325 CE the spring equinox occurred around March the 21st, but in subsequent years it was noted that the spring equinox had started to drift away from that date. This is where you come to realise that there's several inconsistencies in the adoption of the calendar at that time. Now, the Council of Nicaea in 325 CE did more than just decide or make rules regarding how it was that humanity or humans were going to adopt a time division that was created or ruled by them. Now bear with me a moment while I reach for some more interesting information about the Kemetic sidereal calendar. This is what ought to be noted. The calendar includes the following: the world's original zodiac signs. It contains a full colour illustration of the Kemetic Netru, or gods. In it you'll find quotes from the Kemetic traditions and the original holy days. The original holy days means these are what are called the divine holy days, and it sets out the days upon which humanity can truly put aside the time to honour and validate the gods, and in showing the gods the respect that's due to them, together with our ancestors or your ancestors, and a day that's been put aside to honour, validate and respect those people that are responsible for our existence here on earth. Now, the sidereal calendar is the world's most astronomically accurate calendar. I've just mentioned the inconsistencies that come across in the Julian and the Gregorian calendar. It is humanity's oldest calendar. It was used during the times of the pharaohs in Kemet throughout the world. Now, many cultures have been forced to use the Gregorian calendar because of violent conversion and colonization. The sidereal calendar gives one a link to his or her respective heritage through humanity's source, culture, whilst providing accurate time division. It unites all of humanity as one people, while giving all of us a reference in time and space that is not based on socio-religious or political events. The model for the zodiac signs, astrology, the constellation and horoscopes is found in the sidereal calendar. All other zodiacs, such as the Greek and Chinese, are based on this model. Each of the original 13 months are governed by a neter, a divinity, who influences the personality and the destiny of individuals born within that month. Now, this sounds surprisingly like the horoscopes that most people pick up and read in the daily paper, not knowing where the source of all of this comes from. You're being given insight into this hidden knowledge right now. You can find out your sign according to this original Kemetic science of astrology. Find out what taboos are imposed on you by that divinity or god. Align yourself with the principles of nature and the universe that your ancestors knew so well. Now, the fact that this sidereal calendar came about through a study of the stars, of the celestial bodies, meant that over the course of many thousands or hundreds of thousands of years, the cycle of the movements of these celestial bodies was noted, and by having a knowledge of the Earth's or the universe's energetic energies, gave insight into these people who were able to take copious notes, and over the periods that I'm talking about, were able to see the patterns. In so doing, the knowledge of the Sirius star has become evident at a time when humans could not see the Sirius star with the naked eye. It was noted that every 1,461 years, the Earth, the Sun and the Sirius star aligned themselves. This event is known as the helical rising, and it causes huge energetic impact on the Earth and its inhabitants. Throughout history, this period has coincided with catastrophic events. The sidereal calendar was created to chart this cycle. We'll be in the 415th year since the last helical rising, this is written in this edition of the Rising Firefly, so it's relevant to that edition. As you probably realise, we've moved on now. We're in the year 418. So, this 1,461 year cycle is known as the Great Year, or a Neter, God Year. The cycle of the Sirius star, known as Kemet or Septet, also influences the seasonal cycles of the Earth. The Kemetic New Year, September, coincides with the time of the year when Septet rises at the same time or close to the same time as the Sun. This time is also marks the rainy season in the tropical regions as well as the hurricane season. So you'll find out that the farmers who live on the land in Kemet or Merita, Africa as we know it, these things are commonplace to them. And so when they see the Sirius star rising and it coincides with when Septet rising, they know that the rainy season's going to come. You can see how close to nature people are still living, while we in the West are so far removed from this. Let me give you some more information. The real year and the origins of the leap year. The astronomical reality is that 365 days or 366 days does not represent a year. This is if we keep in mind the importance of exact positioning, whether it's the synodic or sidereal. A cycle is complete only if it offers two similar positions. I'll repeat that. A cycle is complete only if it offers two similar positions. The concept of a year revolving around 365 or 366 days is in reality a seasonal cycle from which the important elements of the four seasons that we notice. 1,461 revolutions of the Earth, or 1,461 years, gives to the interstellar conjunctions seen throughout the Earth the astronomical phenomena we call the helical rising of Sirius. The cycle of 1,461 years can be divided into cycles of medium years of 1,461 days. The 1,461 day cycle is the real cycle of a revolution of Earth and can be divided into 3 years of 365 days and 1 year of 366 days. The 1,461 day cycle is known as a real year because it is a complete year, whereas each 365 or 366 day cycle is known as a seasonal year or a farmer's year. The seasonal year is divided into 13 months. I'll repeat that again. The seasonal year is divided into 13 months. This is 12 months of 30 days and 1 month of 5 days. Each 30-day month is divided into 10-day periods known as Metheru, pronounced Metheru, MET-HERU, Metheru. 1 month of 5 days comes as the 13th month and completes the end of the seasonal cycle. At the end of the 4th consecutive seasonal cycle, a 6th day is added to that 13th month. This day, known as the World Renewal Day, is added to keep the calendar in astronomical alignment with the Septet cycle. This is where the modern idea of a leap year comes from. So, if nobody's ever explained where the source of a leap year comes from, you're hearing it for the first time now. In other words, the year of 366 days, generally known as the leap year, is in reality the last portion of the medium years of 1,461 days. It comes from the Kemetic calendar, the sidereal calendar, which is the source of the origins of humanity's time division. Today, We're told in school that it takes 365 days and 6 hours for the Earth to make one complete revolution in its orbit around the Sun. And so we add an extra day every 4 years to give us an average year of 365.25 days. This is the basic contemporary scientific explanation usually given for why we have a leap year. If one examines this explanation carefully, you'll see that this is just a case of modern science trying to bring the proof to validate a concept that has preceded it by centuries. In fact, it wasn't until the 1950s that there were clocks and methods of time measurement accurate enough for modern science to determine precisely the duration of the tropical year. The tropical year they define as the period during which Earth makes a complete 360-degree revolution in its orbit around the Sun with respect to the position of the vernal equinox. Now, I did say that it wasn't until 1950 that there were clocks and method of time measurement accurate enough for modern science to determine precisely the duration of the tropical year. Now, a lot of people put a lot of stock by what we call modern science, and the fact that modern science is capable of doing such wonderful and marvellous things, which to a great extent it is. But when you realise that this modern science's method of measuring time came into perfection following 1950, check this fact out. Based on Kemetic tradition, the notion of the 4-year leap day cycle or leap year in actuality is as old as the Kemetic sidereal calendar, which is over 113,000 years old. I'll repeat that. The Kemetic sidereal calendar is over 113,000 years old. Imagine that the people that are responsible for the Kemetic or sidereal calendar had a knowledge that modern science has only been able to catch up with since the 1950s. Do the calculation and see what a great disparity there is between what we honour and revere as being probably the upside of what human intelligence has been able to give us, while not realising that humble people that still exist today live on a time division which precedes the notion of what we commonly perceive as being a leap year, much less everything else that's connected with it. Now, I'll continue, because this knowledge is deep, and this is a knowledge which hopefully you're taking notes, because I'd like for anybody to call in and debunk what it is that I'm currently sharing with you. And for that purpose, let me just give you the telephone number. It's 079 444 31366. I'm going to give you the number again, just in case it came a bit fast. Here we go. 079 444 31366. And what I'm doing, I'm challenging any of the listeners out there, no matter where you are in the world, please call in anything in what I'm about to share with you. You can find something that either contradicts it, where you're able to provide the source. We'll happily take in that information and come back to you with what we believe is an explanation for why it is that you've got something that contradicts or in some way misshapes what you're about to hear. So, to continue. The sidereal calendar gives one a link to his or own respective heritage through humanity's source culture, while providing accurate time division. It unites all of humanity as one people. And I've mentioned before, it gives us all a reference in time and space that is not based on socio-religious or political events. just to explain, the sidereal calendar, it breaks down a month into 30 days, and those 30 days are split into 3 amounts of 10 days, and it's within these 10 days that you'll find out that there's a day appointed for us as humanity to be able to put aside the time and a routine to be able to celebrate our ancestors. So every 10 days there's a day put aside to celebrate our ancestors, called the Ancestors' Day. And within this 10 days there's also a day that's reserved to celebrate and worship the gods, the Neteru. And on that day, in the sidereal calendar, you'll see that there are different gods that are different Neteru, different gods that are appointed to each 10-day period. And each 10-day period is called a decan. Now, you may wonder what happens when you're not there revering or celebrating your ancestors or the divine. And those are days when you would carry out what are your daily prayers. And within these 10 days, 2 days are given to rest. So not every day is a day where you have to perform a routine. And you'll find that by following the sidereal calendar and by understanding how it is that you can acknowledge these days and you can worship or give offerings to these days, will enhance you as a person and enhance your spirituality, and also be in keeping with a time division that goes back to the earliest days of humanity. Now, if there's anything else that you'd care to find out, I urge you to get in touch with the Earth Centre via the website. As my colleague and fellow initiate is about to share with you, he's going to give you the address for the Temple of the EC. And later on in the show, you're going to be talking to somebody who is who heads up the Coventry Temple, which is the second temple that exists in the UK outside of the one in London, which is based in Leighton. So please do come forward with any questions, any queries, any comments that you've got. You've been given the telephone number. Please text in any of the information or any of the questions that you've got, and we'll happily read out what comes to us via the text.
Ojai, everyone. Yeah, what my brother was just speaking about is you can get that information there in the Kemetic, in the sidereal calendar. There's actually a calendar that actually gives you like all the months, all the deities, all the netters that governs over each month. It gives us our rest days, our ancestral days, our divine holy days, and it basically gives you the sense of where we are in time and space. Because when you look at the Gregorian calendar, which we're using now, really, it's basically based off nothing. And if you understand the history of it, it was like Pope Julius Caesar and his and Pope Gregory, they just decided that they were just going to pick a day at random, and 2019, that's what it represents, the beginning of their history, and that was to wipe out our history. And so when we look at what we reference our time and space in, is actually based off nothing. So the sidereal calendar is actually the most accurate astronomical calendar there is on the planet as it is now. And so for us to kind of say, have an idea of where we are in time and space. And for example, you know, when we look at, like, say, when our day begins, they give it to us that our day begins in the middle of the night. And that was done to disconnect us from our spiritual ancestors, netters who was there to serve us or were there for us. So you can imagine, like, say, 12 o'clock in the middle of the night, our day begins. So if it was important for us to make contact with our ancestors at a particular time, well, every day we're going to be running out of sync. And so our ancestors, they based our calendar from the Sirius star. And that's what the Dogons, that's what people associate the Dogons with, like the significance of the Sirius star. But the significance of that is that they actually use that star to actually plot our time of the great year, which is the Netta year, which is that gives us the 1,461 years, and that's basically our calendar is based off nature. You know, so all our references is to do with nature. Yeah, as opposed to the European, theirs is to do with politics, and it's about controlling people, as opposed to trying to fit in with nature and be in harmony with nature. And yeah, I'll give you the number again where you can reach where you can reach us on from the Health Center, and our number is 0207 175 4144, and it's the email address is mtamuk@thehealthcenter.com, and Facebook the Health Center UK, and on Twitter is Kebta UK. On Instagram, it's at the Health Center of UK, and the web, the www.thehealthcenter.org. And you can reach us. Our temple address is 21 Sunnyside Road, Leighton, London, E10 7BB. And if you'd like to phone in really and you have any comment really on the information that you've heard, the studio number is 07944 431366. I repeat again, 079 44431366. And that's the studio number for Bless FM really. So any if you want to text in or phone in, you're free to do that. We'll just give you the proverb again for the week, and the proverb for the week is the sun never sets, it's man that moves away from the light. And we'll just have a short interlude of music, and then we'll bring you back in to we'll bring you back in to section 3, where we'll have a short reading from the Firefly magazine.
Greetings. Is it on? Alright, greetings, this is Tamisha. I'm going to be reading from the Firefly magazine, volume 51. Volume 51. This one is called Black Bull, Red Bull, White Bull. Contrary to what our ancestors have taught us, we have witnessed the break of new doctrines within the last 2 millennium. That will not stop telling us that the goodness has strength. Yes, the religions present goodness as a very powerful force capable of destroying evil and freeing the human being from suffering and death that has been imposed on him by the forces of evil. The human of modern society is brought to a sort of fatalistic view of the dynamic of the forces that affect his destiny. Maybe this approach is nothing but the best of the strategies introduced by this system to make us the primary victims. All the Kemetic schools that teach spirituality say that we must recognize the fact that the forces of evil are the most dynamic forces on earth. Evil possesses within itself the tendency to expand and occupy new territories within the human being and around the human being. To reach this goal, evil will use every possible avenue. We have understood that there is fundamental principles in the evil symbolized by the god Set, and against who the fundamental principle of the good symbolized by Wuza is trying to survive. By understanding that in the holy drama, Set succeeded in killing Wuza, we can understand how it will not be easy for the human being to survive the evil that invades him. A human being is easily subject to corruption and generally prefers the emotional approach to life instead of the difficult task that is presented by thinking and reasoning. Considering this fact, we can confirm without risk of inaccuracy that he is an easy prey to the evil forces, the forces of evil. We can see that all the religions and doctrines that have acquired a certain polarity in the human world approach us through the channel of emotions and feelings. It is because faith, feelings, etc. do not think. They are a territory of sensitivity, leading the human being into identifying himself with what he feels. This means that unknowingly we defend what we believe with our life, because we believe that any changes in what we believe will simply signify the death of what we believe ourselves to be. As shown in the holy drama, every individual is in the image of the god Heru, born infant from a father that is dead, even before the conception of the child. Every individual like Heru, is born premature, meaning weak in the flesh and spirit. But like Heru, every individual is born with a heavy responsibility to establish the kingdom of the Godfather on earth. He must understand that just like the situation between Set and Heru, we will arrive here preceding the existence of evil. The evil then had all the time it needed to organize itself in ways that we will not recognize it. The evil has had enough time to build itself in territories we find attractive. It has had time to present itself and look like the God we are trying to find. Evil has had time to set an educational system so that it can mold us into believing only in what it wants. The evil forces are the most dynamic. This is perhaps why the doctrines that claim to be divine find themselves killing and committing genocide without shocking or reveling the believers. The story I'm going to tell is a fable from the depth of the Kemetic lands. It talks about a situation between a predator and its prey. We must understand that there is nothing pleasant if one has to live under the skin of the prey. The idea alone that the others are looking at you as a food reserve can only force us to recognize that if nature has a message of love for us, that message really goes beyond our ability to understand. It is at the same time difficult for us to understand the creation of life that is not motivated by the fundamental principle of good. Perhaps it is the duty of the existence to protect the portion of existence that manifests itself through him. In the middle of the Kemetic savannah, a herd of bulls decided to organize themselves against the lions. They understood that together they will be able to defend themselves. They signed a pact. For a long time it became impossible for lions to attack any bull because every time the lions arrive, the bulls unite their strength and fight. The bulls survived them and reproduced and lived in happiness and prosperity for many generations. The situation lasted to the point that lions were no longer visible in their environment. The bulls celebrated their victory, announcing that they had taught a lesson to the lions. But it is to forget the fundamental principle of evil. It is to forget that the evil never gives up. It is to forget that every time the evil is repulsed, instead of recognizing its defeat, it always returns after readdressing its methods and correcting what it sees as having been its error. From afar, lions observed and studied the dynamics of the herds of bulls. They sent a messenger to the chief of the herd that announced that the bulls of black color were the cause of the problems in the community. Yes, it is the black bulls, he said with passion. They are rude, they are aggressive, and they are strong. All the females love them. The messenger of the lions did not need a lot of time to convince. For the other bulls, the idea that the good can be on the top of the community if they could get rid of the black bulls made them celebrate. They then agreed with the messenger of the lions. One day, a big pride of lions arrived. But instead of getting together to fight, the red bulls and the white bulls withdrew and pushed any black bull that came close back towards the lion. The lions then massacred the black bulls and took away their carcasses. The lions fed on the carcasses of the black bulls for months. The community of the bulls reorganized itself. A new social order was established. But as in every society, the internal conflicts re-emerge under the vigilant eyes of the lions. The red bulls reveal themselves to be stronger and more dynamic. One day, the lion sent a messenger. He announced to the white bulls that the red bulls are the cause of all the problems. Yes, it is the red bulls, he said with passion and conviction. They are rude, they are aggressive, they are strong, and all the females love them. If you get rid of them, we will guarantee peace for you, and nobody will dare touch you as long as you are around. The white bulls agreed. The white bulls sacrificed the red bulls. After the attack of the lions and the massacre of the red bulls, all the bulls of the white color found themselves in a harmonious community. They celebrated the fact that lions have guaranteed their security. They can live in peace with lions. But just as in any society, the internal conflicts emerge. One day, the whole community of lions arrived and surrounded the herd of bulls. The new chief of the bulls asked after a moment of surprise, "What do you want, dear friends?" At this question, all the lions exploded in crazy laughter. "What do you want?" repeated the chief of lions in a mocking tone. "We want to eat you." "But you have promised protection to us. We are our friends," said the chief of bulls with a trembling voice. To this, the chief of the lions took a very serious tone and said, "What were you thinking when we asked you to give up the black bulls and the red bulls? Because they were stronger? And look at us, we are lions. We eat you guys. Together you are too strong for us, but separated you are nothing but food for us." After these words, he summoned the attack, and all the bulls were massacred. This is one aspect of dynamism one can find on the forces of evil. Evil is the most persistent, and we've seen in the holy drama, nonetheless, the principle of good possesses the quality of resurrection, to go against the destruction power of evil. Set has killed Wuzza, and Wuzza has resurrected, even after Set had cut his body in 14 pieces, allowing the birth of Heru. This individual will survive the evil. He must protect himself from religious and barbaric superstitions of the modern society.
Well, my sister, that's a good article, really, and that's basically showing us, really,
The situation we're in right now.
yeah, where we've been conned, really, and we're here fighting against each other, killing each other, really. And the way things are at the moment, there's just one winner, and we need to kind of say to become back as a family and a community again, really, because our destruction has been plotted. You know, it's been plotted way before we came here, and we're just basically just living out what's been put in front of us here. And that's one good reason why the Health Center is here, to kind of say, to help us to reorientate ourselves and basically to know where we're coming from and what direction we're supposed to be going towards, because the system is there, and you know, as they say, we all need a master. We all have to follow something, because we can't invent anything, so we follow what we see. And at the present, the system basically is putting in front of us the direction of where it wants us to go, and we're just following like sheeps. And we have to break that sequence there. And so the Health Center is here. Really, you know, it's, for me, it's been a source of knowledge that I've not been able to kind of attain out there from anywhere else. And so for anyone out there who's interested, who wants to find themselves, we welcome you to come on, even sit in on one of our Sunday classes, just to see the information that's been given out and how it's been given out to us. You know, so yeah, I just have to thank my sister again, Nduwawu, for the readings, and we just have a short interlude. And before we go into the next section. Shahuga from Shahuga Tatit. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna Ujai, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
You can. Okay, that's good. Yeah. I'm just gonna introduce our sister Yatepia. She's from the Coventry kind of school. We said we had 2 schools in the UK here, and she's presently kind of from the Coventry school, and basically she's gonna introduce herself and give us a breakdown of her journey as an initiate and her travels that she's just ventured on. So I hand you over, my sister, to the listeners.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm honoured for this opportunity. I've not long come back from Merita, and I was made aware of your show on my return. And the knowledge I want to share with you is about my journey, what it's taken for me to become who I am and who I am becoming. But to begin with, I must give thanks and honour and acknowledgement to the ancestors and Makaru for the path that I'm now walking, for the sacrifices they made for me to be here, for the opportunity to reclaim the names of those who have gone before me, for my destiny to be able to stand and reconquer myself, and for the guidance on this path. How did it start? Oh, I used to go to church. It did nothing for me. I had too many questions. Things like,
Sorry, my sister, could you just speak up a little bit more, please?
Okay. I said I used to go to church back in the day. I went for about 10 years, 10, 15 years. It did nothing for me. I had too many questions that weren't being answered. Questions like, if the spirit never dies, what were we before? And what will we be after we transition? Church couldn't give me that answer. I knew nothing about spirituality when I heard the word. It used to conjure up images of flower power back in the 60s. Love and light and nature. So I never did take it seriously, but my questions kept coming. I didn't grow up in a home where black culture was promoted. I kind of grew up in a home where we tried to blend in and not be noticed. So there was no link between spirituality and my culture. I knew I was black, but that was about it. It was my brother, Mr. Hootie, who introduced me to the Earth Center. He was curious about life, where we were, and who we were to become. He would share a little of the knowledge that he had with me, but the little grain of knowledge that he shared with me got me intrigued, and I saw the changes in him.
Oh, sorry, could I just interrupt and ask, how long ago has your journey been? How long ago did it start with the Earth Center?
My journey only started about 3 years ago.
3 years? Okay.
Yeah, not long at all. I was the kind of person who was completely blinded by society. Didn't look elsewhere because I was comfortable, like a lot of people. Didn't realize that my whole life was being constructed by others who didn't care whether I existed or not. He only cared about the value I brought to the system, not the value of me as a person. So 3 years ago, this journey started for me.
So please share with us the journey, because it sounds like you've got a lot that you could offer, and the listeners probably wonder kind of like what it is like to be introduced to the experiences that the Earth Center can bring. So
wow, I had so many penny drop moments in the classroom. As I said, my brother introduced me to the Earth Center. We were both curious, so he joined, not telling me, thinking that he's jumping too far into it, and these people are weird, and these are the Dogons, and they have a strange way of life. But when he started giving me little bits of information, it was like triggers, like planting a seed. And my life started to change before I actually joined. I started to see people differently and the struggles that we had that I didn't really notice before because it happened to everybody else. So when the orientation happened in Birmingham, I jumped on the bandwagon and I joined.
And could you just explain what orientation is?
Okay, orientation is when the doors are open for initiation
Okay.
into the Dogon priesthood. So that happens once a year, and it was my turn. November 2016, I joined.
You remember the date?
11th of November 2016.
And so the public can come along to orientation, I take.
Yes. There was 6 of us who joined initially, and 3 left over the course of a few months.
Right.
Because what the Earth Center does, it gets you to look at yourself as a person. It allows you to see yourself as people don't see you, but as you reveal yourself to yourself.
Yes.
It expands your mind and it changes your thinking. It gets you to realize that we are compartmentalized. You know, we are put in boxes and we are left there. The Earth Center gets you to look up, stand up, get out the box, flip it upside down, stand on top of the box and look at the world.
Wow.
So you then see everything completely different. The Earth Center has a way of changing the way you think at your speed.
Yes.
There's nothing forced. It's a gradual process. But once it's changed, it cannot go back.
Is it
because
like
you're
a realization?
Yeah. It's not what I expected. I expected, before I joined the Earth Center, I had the house. I bought the house. I had the car. I had holidays every year. I was traveling all over the place. I had about over 60 pairs of shoes, 30 handbags, 40 hats, wardrobe so full of clothes that I'd wear clothes once a year and never put the outfit back on again. I had clothes just ridiculous. But when I got to the Earth Center, I realized I wanted to just get information to accumulate more than I already had. Not the information, but just to add on to what I've already accumulated in my life. But what the information did was allowed me to see what I was doing to myself.
I see.
So the shoes went, the clothes went, the bags went, the house went, everything. Friends changed. Everything changed within about 8 months of me joining.
Wow.
I cut my hair off. I understood that relaxing your hair for over 30 years does a lot to the body. Not only that, I wasn't being me. I was trying to portray an image that everybody thought I should be, and not realizing I'm actually living my life for everybody else's expectations. What was mine? Where were my expectations? What did I now want for myself that I didn't see 40 odd years?
Well, this
When
is
I
what
came
the
to
s-
the,
That's what the system does, though, isn't it? It kind of it actually puts in front of you the direction of where they want you to go, and
Yeah.
by the time you get through the end of your life, you realize that you really haven't got nothing,
no,
because all those things that we're working for, none of those things that you can carry with you. So
it's
um,
true. I mean, the moment we're born, we're kidnapped. I learned that in the class. I thought, you know what? It's the lessons that you get at the Earth Center. That what they give you isn't anything that's far outreaching. It's what they do is turn your mind so that you see what is exactly in front of you. The first year of the Earth Center is called Per Ankh. It's like a wash, a cleanse, decolonization. And the first few weeks I sat in that class, tears came to my eyes because it wasn't a wash I was getting. I realized I had been bleached of everything, my culture, my name, my appearance, my thoughts, my values. And the Earth Center gets you to take them back. It gets you to reclaim yourself. It gets you to understand who you are, where you've come from, and where you're heading. The Earth Center gives you a focus in your life. It gives you life purpose. Because what it teaches you is the goal of humanity, the goal of your ancestors, your goals. It helps you to understand and recognize the path that you are now walking. It gets you to be a human being. We go through life and we listen to others and we take on their values because society says this is right and that is right and this is how you must act. But at the EC, at the Earth Center, they give you values, they give you the divine code of human behavior that was given to humanity, to our ancestors. By following those 77 commandments, you break down all the walls that you've built around you as a person.
How easy is it to follow the 77?
Oh, the 77 are very curious because when you think you understand it, it changes because you change as a person. They are not the easiest to follow at all. A lot of them are hard to understand. But as you grow as a person and your knowledge deepens, so too does the 77.
I think it's just as well to explain to the listening audience that the 77 commandments are there to help and assist us to kind of like get back to humanity or to elevate ourselves as humans, and to understand that there is a path which is a road to the divine, and that humanity's task or wish or desire is to want to aspire to be as close to the gods as possible. And by having an understanding and following the 77 commandments, it's the best that we could do as humans to align ourselves with the divine. Or at least what's your take on it, so that you can explain to the listening audience what you perceive as being the reason for the 77 commandments.
Okay, the reason for the 77 commandments. You know, everything in nature has a function.
Yes.
Animals do what they do, plants do what they do, but everything in nature itself, the planets do what they do, everything has a function.
Yes.
When the humans were created, we were created without that function. We were created without an agenda. So we were very barbaric. We didn't know what it was to be a human. We were just created.
Yes.
We didn't have any guidelines, but we had power. So the gods, the Neteru, decided, you know what? I don't like the way humanity's going. Let's annihilate them and start again. One of our ancestral gods, Wuza, appealed before the other gods for us. He said, you created these humans. Okay, they're not gods, but you created these humans with power. And you created them without an agenda. So Wuza said to the gods, they need an agenda. So the gods were curious, and they called the humans and said, humans, we created you. Okay, you don't have an agenda. What is your agenda? So they looked around, they saw the earth, they saw what they had, but what was better than themselves was the divine world, was the gods. So the humans, our ancestors, said, our agenda is, we want to be like you. We want to be like the gods, and if we can't be like you, we want to create the divine world here on earth. So the gods in turn thought within themselves, I thought, you're human, you're corrupt. We're not corrupt. Okay, you're dirty. We're not dirty. You hunt each other and you kill. We don't do that. But in order for you to be like us, you have to live by a set of rules that will elevate you and help you to become more like us. So we were given the 77 commandments. the divine code of human behavior, how to be more human, how to conduct yourself, how to be human. You know, there are a lot of people out there who don't even know what the definition of human is. They are told how to be human by those in power and what their agendas are.
Yeah.
How different really is the 77 to the 10 Commandments?
It's where the 10 Commandments come from. Except they left out the other 70. Sorry, I can't even add. They left out the other, left out the other 67.
Yeah.
And they did that because without these commandments, the rest of the 67, it turns a human away from being human. So the invaders, in order for them to promote themselves, and take their knowledge, what they gained from us, back to society, they took only 10 and said, you know what, this will be easier to follow than 77. So not realizing or not knowing, or should I say, the people who took on these 77, these 10, a lot of them, up to this day, don't understand or don't even know that the other 67 exist. And the 10 that were taken was just for society, not for the person themselves. Whereas the 77 is for the individual to grow. The 10 is just to control society.
I really want to get back to your story, because yours is a very personal story that only you can tell. But in what you've just introduced to the listeners, you've brought about the 77 commandments and how it affects us and humanity. It also exposes what is corruption that exists within us. And in what you've said, what the teachings that the EC have brought to worldwide is a way of looking into ourselves to see the corruption that exists within us, and learning that this is something that can be contained.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, we are taught in society to live. Well, what's the saying? You only live once, so do what pleases you. We are told. Well, we are forced to live on our emotions.
Right.
Buy this and it will make you happy. Drink this and it will make you high. Wear this clothes and you'll be attracted to somebody else. It's all about feeding the emotion. There's nowhere that you can go in society and it tells you to think. They've taken that from you, the ability to think, because you have so many distractions constantly. From the moment you open your eyes, there are distractions. And what those distractions do is turn you away from thinking. The Earth Center turns you back around and it shows you how to think. For example, any decision you want to make in life, no matter how big, no matter how small, there's 3 questions you ask yourself. The first question is, this action that I'm about to take, this decision that I'm about to take, has it been done before? Okay, if so, by who? And the result that they've got, is that the result that I want for myself? It only takes a couple of milliseconds to think about those questions. If you're in a fight and somebody's going to hit you and you think, should I hit back or what? Is this been done before? Who did it? What was the result? And is that the result I want for myself? It gives you time to think and act out of logic rather than emotion. That's one of the tools that the Earth Center gives you to help you to not live on your emotions, because you can think back everybody can think back in their own lives, and the regret that they have or the mistakes that they have been based on emotion.
Is it true to say that logic and emotion cannot occupy the same space?
No, they can't. They can't. That will cause mental illness.
Yes.
To put it mildly.
Sister, can I ask this Tamisha here? You Jai, sister, and I think it's quite impressive to hear when you speak about your journey, and the fact that you made such a turnaround in such a short space of time. I mean, 3 years is excellent, and the fact that if you, as I presume that you're a mother, what
I'm a grandmother.
what advice would you give to other mothers or young people trying to get this knowledge, what, you know, in your journey, how was you able to, you know, I mean, there's two questions I'm asking more or less, really. What was the most dramatic impact in your family, in relation to the changes that you had to make, and how they perceived it and how they accepted it?
Okay.
And I think the other one is, what advice would you give to other mothers and young people out there who wants to,
Okay.
get this
So
knowledge?
to answer both questions, very simple. Lead by example. That's it. A lot of people will watch and not say anything. They'll watch you for a long time. It's how you stand. It's how the principles are affected, how you are affected by the principles. It's how you carry yourself. It's how you speak. It's how you interact with people. Seeds can be planted that way without you having to say anything. That's what attracted me to the Earth Center when I saw the changes in my brother. When he changed, I changed. All of my family changed. My brothers, two of my sisters, my mom,
Wow.
my children, and my grandchildren are very spiritual.
Wow.
For me, it was easy. I'm not the oldest child in my family, but I act as if I am. And where I go, others follow, because I've got that kind of character within my family. I'm the one that's in the middle that pulls everybody together. So when I changed and they saw the change and recognized that this wasn't something that was a fly by night, it wasn't anything, it wasn't a phase. It was something serious for me to change what I changed in just a short amount of time.
So
that was the effect that they needed for their change.
So you say lead by example.
Lead by example. It's not what you say, it's what you do. Intentions are all well and good, but it's your actions that count.
And there's always one in the family who is the one that will take the lead. And everybody's watching.
There is.
You don't realize
but
they're watching, and they're all watching you.
I can't hear you. You've cut out.
Oh, is it cut out?
Well, could I just ask, you've been through Parank, you've been through that stage, and you've graduated. Could you just explain what graduation means to somebody who's actually been through it? And graduation, for most people, they think about university graduation, but this is an entirely different type of process. And for you, what did it mean?
For me, it meant the beginning of my journey. We are told in the EC in Parank that we are like the pen and the earth is the paper, and we're here to write our history. Parank for me was me putting the pen on the paper. It wasn't even the beginning, it was just the start. Graduation for me meant that I had started to reclaim myself. I had a deeper understanding of myself and where I was going. I understood my history. Oh God, our history is so critical in who we are. It's our history that makes us who we are. And I learned that in Parank. It gave me a sense of pride going through Parank, the first level, the first year. To know the sacrifices that my ancestors made for me to even be breathing at this particular time in my existence.
And you mentioned at the beginning of your story that you were disconnected from culture in your upbringing, but as part of graduation, you've been given a name. Could you understand the relevance of getting a name? People might just think, well, it's just like getting a nickname. But
No.
and what it means, its translation.
Okay. Right. To have a name is more than just a name. Okay. Our names are sounds of nature. Our language are sounds of nature. A European name is a name that is just a sound. It doesn't carry the meaning. A lot of people have names that are religious, but it doesn't carry the meaning. You're not recognized. The earth doesn't recognize you as that name because your language isn't natural. it's man-made.
Yes.
So when you get your name is your name is from the earth. I mean, you're born to the earth. You eat, you live, you breathe, you have your children, you walk upon it, you die, and you return to the earth. So where better to get your name from? The earth recognizes who you are, and that is your name, your earth-given name. You get your name from priests who read the energies of the earth, called Entam.
Yes.
Entam is a study of earth energies, and they will read the earth for your name, and that name is how the earth recognizes you. Your name comes with a meaning. Yatepia means dignity of the ancestral gods. Tutsawa, which is my generational name, which is the name that everybody in my generation, everybody that I study with, gets that generational name, and that name is a build-up of all the people who are in your generation that you graduated with. And Tutsawa is my name, my generational name, and that means in the image of the great shepherd Wusa. So for my name, I have a lot of work to do to become that person. I am already that person, but this journey is a journey of me discovering who I am already.
And do you find that in getting that name, it's actually provided you with what could a powerful connection to what you call your past, to your ancestry, to knowing a lot more about who you are and the position that you have here on this planet Earth?
Definitely. It makes you reconnect with the ancestors. I mean, I've spoken about pride, knowing the sacrifices that my ancestors made, but with the name comes with more pride, because it's an understanding of, I'm not just taking a name, I'm taking a name with meaning, and the name comes from the earth where my ancestors are. The name it's a symbol of who they are, who I am, and the future generations. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 generations down the line, where my descendants are acknowledging me, it's Yatepia that they will call.
Yes.
A name that has the meaning. Not my previous European name, which had no meaning, but the word Yatepia carries power in itself in the name. So every time I hear it, I think about my ancestors, where the names come from, what it means, and what I have to do. So it's not just a name. The name has a meaning. And it has a life. The name itself has a life.
And you just come from the continent there, really. You just give it like just you know, that's where your name coming from. So would you give a light overview of what your journey was like over there?
Oh, Merita, wow. You know, you're in the class in the EC in whatever country, and you learn about structure and you learn about the culture. But you can talk to somebody and you think they'll have an understanding. But when you go there and you see it living and breathing and working the same way it worked 10, 15, 20,000 years ago, it's amazing. Just the way that they are, the way that the people there accept you as a human. Colour's got nothing to do with it. It's not what you speak or it's your actions. It's not your status. Money's got nothing to do with it. They accept you as a human. The way they think is completely different, and it's a beautiful thing.
That's a very important statement. And I just wanted to just to dwell on that just for a moment, and that is that what the Earth Centre promotes has got absolutely no racial bias. It's got no colour bias, no creed bias, and it welcomes all creeds, all nations, all colours, because it's about humanity.
That's it. Humanity's agenda, not a certain race or type of race or creed. It's not about colour whatsoever. Race is a recent thing. 10,000 years ago, when we was living that life, that traditional life, race had no meaning. Race didn't even exist, except for the human race. Now it is such a divide. It's hard for people to get over. It's an emotional barrier. But the Earth Centre makes you see through that. It makes you see beyond that veil. And once you've passed that, once you've got over the emotion, once you've learned how to control your emotion, and you see life completely differently. I mean, emotion, I compare that emotion to living in the dark. Instead of thinking your way through life, you're feeling your way through life. We humans cannot live that way.
And
It's
so,
impossible.
in you returning from Merita, and it would be good if you could go into a little bit more detail about your journey. But now that you're back in the UK, I take it that you've got a focus, you've got a direction, and I don't know if you want to share with the listening audience what is your goal.
My goal is to promote the Coventry School, get that up and running, because it's a new school in Coventry. We moved from Birmingham, from Coventry in December. I went away for a couple of months and came back. So orientation hopefully should be in April for the doors of initiation to be open to let in the new initiates. So I'll be working towards that.
Sorry, just let me repeat, just for the listening audience. And what you call the school is what we've been referring to as a temple. And the good news is that Yetepia is now instrumental in getting what is the second location in the UK in a position where it's opened its doors to anybody who wants to share in this mystery knowledge, in this knowledge that's being brought. I'm going to let you take over and continue to let everybody know what you've got to say.
And also the details of the school, the telephone
School,
numbers.
yeah. Okay, the Coventry School, what we offer is profound doggone knowledge. Yeah? We teach Medu, or as the Europeans refer it to as hieroglyphics. We teach Katibi, which is meditation and yoga, and Sunt, natural healing. As I said, initiation, the doors for initiation will be opening in April this year. It's only a couple of months away, so I have a lot of hard work to do. The Coventry address is 18 Biggin Hall Crescent, Coventry, CV3 1GS. Telephone numbers 02476 266 859. Mobile number 07305 995 944.
And just in case some of our listeners didn't get that, if you could just repeat that again, please.
Yeah. Coventry Temple, Coventry School is 18 Biggin Hall Crescent, Coventry, CV3 1GS. Telephone numbers 02476 266 859 or 07305 995 944. Or you could find that information on the earthcenter.org.
And you're saying the orientation starts in April, you say?
In April, yes. The doors for initiation will be opening up in April, and I am looking towards teaching as much as I can and giving the knowledge to as much people as I can. Because I'm now obligated to share. It's not mine to keep. It's for humanity. It's for everybody, regardless of who you are, what age. There's no age limit. Usually start from 7 upwards. Below that, children below the age of 7 can sit in the class. They're pure anyway. They can learn. Over the age of 7 to whatever age, 80, 90, 95, as old as you want to be, there's no age limit. And we only go as fast as the slowest initiate. We go at the pace of the initiates. We organise days for teaching around the initiates. It's not like colonial school where they have set days and you have to fit in. It's the other way around. You pick your days and I will fit in to suit you. I already have the knowledge. I'm there to give it to you regardless. So that is what we're about. It's not it's not a school where you sit around a table and you just write, and then you go home and have tests. You get the lessons, you reflect on them, and you apply it to your life. Once you start applying it to your life, you see the changes. You'll see your perception will change. You'll see things that have always been there, but have been shrouded with other people's values and opinions. Other values and opinions that are not your own. Once you recognize yourself as who you are, not who anybody expects you to be, but who you are, then things change. I remember starting my class and my teacher, Irita Naba, first lesson, he said, you are now finally doing something for yourself. You're not doing it to please anybody else. You're doing it for yourself, to be yourself. And I didn't get that until probably 6 weeks later, when I had one of many penny dropping moments when we were talking about values and opinions, how they're not your own, how they are imposed by society. And I dropped my pen on the table and I thought, oh my gosh, I need to stop what I'm thinking, think about what I'm thinking, and then think.
Well,
because all this time.
That was a very interesting kind of overview of your journey, and we would like to have you back in again. Really, like to share more with us. Really.
Yeah, that would be very, very good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and we'll just say duwawu for your time, and we will, if you've got any last words you want to say to the listeners before we kind of fade out this section here, we'll just give you the mic. And
to all the listeners out there, take this opportunity to discover you. Take this opportunity to discover where you have come from. The teachings that you get at the Earth Center have been untouched by European hands. It is very pure. It is coming from the very people who live the life they are teaching. So if you are somebody out there searching or just curious, take the opportunity. Because once you do, you don't just reclaim yourself and your ancestors, you're reclaiming future generations to come.
Yeah, duwawu, my sister. Yeah, so next week we will try to get you back on the show, and then you can just finish off where you've left off here. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Duwawu.
Just like to say a big duwawu, and for those listeners, duwawu is thank you for the wise words of wisdom from somebody who, from your own ears, you'll know that she started off being completely naive to what the EC has got to offer, and through her own experiences, her own journey, she can now share with you what is immense and important information. So get in touch, tune in. I'm going to hand you back to the host this evening.
everyone. This is we're coming up to our final section now, and we'd just like to introduce our next initiate, who's going to read article from the Initiate Tales, and basically, she'll introduce herself really and what the title of what they should be reading. Claudette?
Ujayi.
Yay.
Hi, I'm Claudette, and I'm speaking. I'm going to read Kemetic initiation stories from the Initiatic Tales of Hej Patar. This story is called Friendship. Friendship grows with the intention we give to another. It is very common nowadays to see situations in which people that we thought were our friends become our enemies. This can be observed among ourselves and among members of our family. Every time we find ourselves in this situation, we rush to blame other persons. It is always the other person. It has character, his physical aspect, his odor, energy, weak points, strong points. He or she is inhibited by the devil. He or she is Satan himself, etc. It is always the other person who makes us angry. It is never us. This is how we mask our dishonesty, even though somewhere inside us there is a little small voice that is repeating, it is not the other, it is me. Our education as modern humans does not take into consideration the fact that by our nature we are not solitary beings. Consequently, it is not provide us the needed qualities for a peaceful cohabitation with our neighbors. One should know that this lack of human qualities is in our education was not a mistake from our educators. The principles of this industrial world are based on the elimination of all the social aspects of individuals, because these aspects are what led to communal life and socialist ideologies. This puts us in a position to bet that 1 out of 10 marriages will lead to divorce, and every non-interested friendship will lead to indifference. There are stories in Africa or legends told by older people at around the fires with the goal that goes beyond a simple distraction. These legends entertain us and educate us at the same time. They show us the social values that, if taught in initiation camps, will appear boring. The African legends are educational. They describe facts that happen in a world that is different from ours, among gods, spirits, animals, and among people, of a world that is different from the one we are living in, but from which the lessons will help us improve the world that we are creating today. Friendships, yes, friendships. This is a story of an old one-eyed dog that never stops repeating to anyone that tries to find out how he ended up with one eye. Friendships. Anytime we make a friend, we gain 2 more eyes. Anytime we lose a friend, he takes 1 of our eyes with him. That old dog never says anything more. He always leaving the petrified listener continuing his trot with his head down as if he had just picked a new scent from the ground. The enigma of the old one-eyed dog and his opinion on friendship haunted the African bushes and forests for years. There came a day that the old one-eyed dog, sensing his death, decided to tell his entire story. All the animals in the bush gathered by his deathbed. The old one-eyed dog, tired of carrying his secret, which for him was nothing other than his ignorance of the world, asked if the friend that he had snatched his eye was present. The group started to murmur. All the animals were searching for the individual that was responsible for the physical handicap that struck with the old dog until the last minute of his life. To the surprise, the whole group, they saw a one-legged, one-winged heron coming. The heron come and sat by the bed of the dog. The two of them looked at each other, and after a moment, tears and emotion turned towards the intrigued group and announced their decision to tell their story. It was very long time ago that the old one-eyed dog was just a young and vigorous and innocent puppy in search of playmates. He met a young heron by the river that was apparently also looking for a playmate. They decided to become friends. They loved each other so much that they decided to adopt each other as brothers. They met every day to play and wander through the bushes of Africa. One day the dog decided to organize a feast in honor of his brother and friend, the heron. He cooked food so special that the aroma could be sensed for miles around. The heron was so happy to see that his friend and brother was giving him so much consideration. He rushed to the river that was the rendezvous point. When he got there, he saw that the dog was waiting for him with a big smile, but the food was placed on the flat surface of a rock. The heron could only smell the food with his beak. It was impossible to take any liquid food placed on the flat rock. The dog with his tongue could calmly lick all of the food, ignoring the difficulties of the heron. At the end of the dinner, the dog walked his friend partly down the path and then told him how happy he was that his friend accepted his invitation and that he was keeping that heron was happy too. Oh yes, answered the heron, frustrated to see that the dog simply did not want to see that herons have beaks and cannot eat like dogs. The heron, at the same time, announced that he was going to organize a dinner for the dog to show his appreciation. The heron, at the same time, announced that he was going to organize a dinner for the dog to show his appreciation for the consideration the dog had for him. The dog happily accepted the invitation. When the day came, the heron placed all the food in a flask with a long and narrow neck. The neck was just large enough for the beak of the heron to pass. While the dog was desperately turning around the flask, the heron calmly enjoyed the delicious of the food that he had made. Sure, was favorite dish of the dog. Could not hold his hunger. Friendship is a human value like any other value. It is fed with attention that we pay to the other and get poisoned and dies from the attention we pay ourselves. That's the end of that story.
Do I with my sister? Yeah. And all those that was taken from the initiatic tale. And so there are a lot more kind of stories within the initiatic tale, which is really kind of they're very good lifelike experiences. Really, like they're like Anansi stories. If we're familiar with Anansi stories, they basically come across like those, and they have a lot of wisdom within them, really. And all those could be purchased at the Herb Centre. I'll give you the address again, and it's the telephone number is 0207 175 4144, And it's the email address is mtamuk@theherbcenter.com, and center is spelled CENTER. And then you can contact on Facebook, the Herb Center UK, and Twitter, it's Kepta UK, and on Instagram, it's at the Herb Center of UK, and www.theherbcenter.org. And as I say, you can purchase like our products really like from the Herb Center, from these, well, using those different means of communicating with us at the Herb Center. And the address is in Leytonstone, and it's 21 Sunnyside Road, Leyton, London, E10 7BB. And we'd just like to say, well, thanks for all the listeners for tuning in. And basically the topic of what we've covered really right was the Kemetic sidereal calendar time division, and basically that was telling us about how and where we are in time and space, as opposed to the Gregorian calendar, which basically is based off nothing really, right? And so therefore it has us lost in space. So we'd just like to say thanks to Bless for giving us the opportunity for broadcasting again, and I'm trying to get the information out there to each and everyone out there. And we'll just pass you on to One Love, who would give you a brief overview of his ideas.
Well, just want to say a big thank to Yatepia up in Coventry. That was a wonderful rendition of a contribution, a story, and we've agreed that because it's of such importance and based on the text messages that have come through, there's demand for her to come back on the show. So hopefully we'll have her back on the show next week. Looking forward to that. Anybody with any questions, please forward them through so that we can at least present them to Yatepia, and let's give her all the encouragement in getting the Coventry School up and off the ground. And as she mentioned, there's an orientation. Know that more information on that will be given next week. But thanks to Bless for making this show available. Thanks to our ancestors. Thanks to the EC family throughout the world, and particularly to those people in Merita, and to everybody out there. This is for all of us, all of humanity. So please support.
Yeah, and the number for Bless Studio is 07 944 31 366. And say for next week's show, really, you can store that number there, really, right? And we do welcome, like, say, your input, really, like, and if there's anything that you're unsure about or you'd like to kind of say get further clarity on, you can use that number there, store it in your phone, so that the next week's show, really, hopefully, really, like, say, you could have your questions ready, and hopefully we can kind of say accommodate whatever questions, really, like, you might have in mind, because we know the information there really is not what you're used to hearing, and it takes a bit of time process it, as it took us time trying to process it because of the brainwashing education that the system has given us. When we hear something that's got substance to it, it's like we're always trying to compare it to the nonsense that we've been taught. And it's good really to kind of say to tune in, and hopefully we can kind of say enlighten everyone a little bit more, even ourselves, because we're still learning. We're just fresh initiate, really, like, and so we're going through the channels, really, like, of trying to build ourselves as well. And this is a part of our growth in trying to kind of say disseminating some of the information that we've learned, and is helping us to face our challenges. And we've come to the EC, I personally came here really right to find out what my purpose and my direction was, you know, for me personally, and it's given me that direction of knowing where I should be going. And so hopefully for each and every one out there who would like to find themselves, this is the place to be. And so we'll just sign it out with our signing out tune, or a tune that we're selecting for you, and say next week we'll pleasure in kind of tuning in with you again. Say duao. Hear, hear.
Hear, hear.